Hello and welcome to Understanding Narcissists. Thank you so much for joining me. In this episode, I want to talk about name calling. This is a significant topic because, as per the usual with narcissists, it's a very superficial thing where it looks like it really doesn't have all that kind of importance to it. Really not a lot of weight to the subject, but they're able to leverage it in a sort of inconspicuous way to do a lot of harm to you, to do a lot of things for them that aid them in their own pursuit of control. So I'm not really qualified to talk about the whole psychological effects of name calling. Everybody has experienced it to some extent and has experienced the destruction it can cause in others, kind of social ostracism and so on. And it's a lot deeper than that. The effects the lasting effects that it can cause, and the really instability in a person's life, a distortion about their identity, all the damage and destruction that can go along with it. It plays very heavily in the narcissist's arsenal, not surprisingly. But because it's such a seemingly trivial matter, and let's be honest, when you think of name calling, you think of kids, right? Maybe it's a very abusive environment. You can think of families as well. But name calling usually it conjures kind of a superficial matter. It's not something that's terribly deep on its own. It is, of course, but when you think about it, at least when I think about it, it doesn't seem all that significant. It took me a second to really realize how important this is in the narcissist's arsenal. Because names, identifiers, really do carry with them a sense of, at the very least, hierarchy and social status. But more than that, it's personal. It's the identification. It's the emotional content of it and how it makes you feel. Especially when you're subjected to it. You don't ask to be called by a nickname, or it doesn't just pick up naturally on its own. It's something that happens that you didn't ask for. So that's probably the most important note I shouldn't forget. It's coercive. The narcissist just starts calling you something. Now, as for the range of things they can call you, I can't hope to define each and every possibility. It's almost wholly negative, as per the usual. It's something that will evoke an immediate response from you, something that will set you up so that they can continue to really kind of dominate you, to kind of corral your mind, tangle you up, something to throw you off. At the very least, the cheapest shot a narcissist can throw, and other people as well, but the narcissist will have to do something when they want to engage with you in a really abusive way. When that abusive moment is coming around, there's got to be sand in your eyes. They got to make you misstep. There has to be something that forces you to miss a beat. They always have little things like that. They're cheap tricks. They might be instinctive. There might be something that scares you right there, something about money. More often, something emotional, something that maybe you unfortunately identify with, but you don't want to be identified with, You don't want to be a part of your self-image. A vulnerability, a weakness. They collect those things like stamps. That is a part of the name-calling infrastructure. That's sort of where it comes into play and what its purpose is. It can do that very well. But it has a longer term effect. Like I noted at the beginning of this video, what really is the lasting damage of name calling? Again, seemingly a harmless thing. I mean, it can be relatively harmless. It doesn't have to be a terribly destructive thing. Now, when it's coercive, of course, no. But there's varying degrees of it. But it's it's hard, at least for me, to acknowledge just how destructive it can be. They utilize it maybe to its fullest extent because it's something that is perennial. They will continue to do it. It's not going to be a one-time gig, something they just try out. If there's a name for you, they're going to keep using it when it's effective. And if it's not effective, they're going to find another name. It can be meant to sound endearing, like a nickname for your partner or spouse. Something like, oh, look how close we are. Cute nicknames we call each other when we're sharing a tender moment. Something along those lines. But it really is a mockery of all that. It's really a complete affront and offense to all of that because it looks like that, but it actually has such an insidious and harmful purpose. It's a malicious thing. I guess you could say everything with a narcissist is malicious. Well, this is something that really has an edge to it because it's a very malicious moment, especially when they can use these things too. It's not always in the positive environment they just want to throw you off and hurt you. It can be even when there's a lot of conflict and ire between the both of you that they pull this out. They'll still be calling you that because it works, because they know it has some kind of effect on you. And it's not something you can so easily turn around and say, stop calling me that, for a number of reasons, because you might believe that it's endearing or it's personal in some way. But it's also I have to do with once a narcissist has conditioned you to the point where you basically understand that when you ask them to not do something, they're going to do it anyway. And that actually gives them incentive to do something because now they know, assuming you're being honest, and they can pick that up, then you don't want them to do that. And that is therefore an incentive, a reason for them to do it. And so it can play into that kind of thing as well. It's animosity. Okay, it's a part of that conflict, and that's kind of part of the name-calling mantra, which is really what it is, because I see it so much. It's I don't want to say it's a universal. I'm not saying every narcissist does this, but it is awfully commonplace, and I don't see it really going anywhere. I don't see why it would change. I don't know that it's an immediate contemporary cultural thing. I suspect it's just a common attribute of a lot of narcissists. And I don't want to take you down the rabbit hole or open Pandora's box in this video, but as I'm sitting here thinking about it, the name calling has even more significance because, I mean, I can only imagine that it has a place, an esteemed place in the narcissist's upbringing. With narcissists that I've seen use name calling, it is a fabric of their being. It's not going anywhere, and it's very, very old. It is so prominent. It is so pervasive. It's close to their chest, it's just another thing on their tool belt. And you'll see it early on. You'll see it later on as well, with a narcissist who uses this kind of I'm going to call it a weapon, because that's what it is. It is a glorified way of getting a rise out of you, while also causing long-term damage and subordination, emotional subordination. And it's highly effective. Yet another thing that would cause a narcissist to value it so highly is because it seems ineffective, childish, trivial even. Why would it be effective? It's a kid's thing. Kids call each other names because that's really how they utilize it. Like it's lovey-dovey or like it's sweet somehow or something special. They can mask it with that. And it's just a facade. It just conceals that immediate emotion of revile for you and trying to get a response out of you, trying to make you feel a certain way to do what they want. The same old story. And over time, think of what it can do to transform you. It's another sort of threatening presence in the room. And not to beat a dead horse, but it's highly destructive. It's highly emotional erosion. It really works on you, especially when it's something that you might be vulnerable to and readily identify with. A certain character, a negative trait or attribute. As I've talked about before, may not actually be there. You may not be like that at all. But if you fear that you are, they will exploit it. They will capitalize on it. And they do. And without going too deeply into this, because I don't want this to be a very long video, it has its origins, I find, in the family affair, in their upbringing, in their background, in their history. Maybe it has something to do with their siblings. Maybe their parents did to them. I'm not sure, but you definitely see a normalized conduct where it's something that is just readily accepted. Nobody questions it. And that's definitely one of those things with narcissists that kind of give you an out, or at least a really big glaring sign that something is terribly wrong, is when you notice those things so easily because you get some distance between them and you get a little kind of foothold in reality. You notice how strange they are because they normalize everything. They act like, hey, this is the way it is. Do they really know that's the case? Do they believe that? Well, they can't because they don't do that everywhere they go, if you notice. So whether it's a lie or just denial, it's not true. But you get to see that kind of dynamic play out and how unnatural it is. But in their environment, it's just what you do. It's just the bread and butter, a part of everyday life. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this video. I hope you found it useful. Like it if you do. Share it with somebody you think might benefit from it. Share your experiences with name calling, of which I'm sure you have plenty, in the comment section below. I want to see them. I want to know what you think of this subject, because I think there's a lot to it. I think it's a very, very big deal. I don't want to devote a 6-part series to it or several 15-minute videos, but I think it's a very really a conspicuous topic that I haven't even thought of because I'm so used to it, because I just thought it was just a part of the whole gamut. But I think it's a big deal. I think it's highly significant. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Have a great day. Bye.